Okay, good evening, everyone. I'm now going to call to order the July 14th, 2020 Town Board Agenda Meeting. Welcome. We're going to begin with Finance and General Government Committee items, and we'll begin with Janet Nguyen. You're on mute, Janet.
Thank you. You can't read my lips?
Yeah, right.
The first item is a resolution certifying the adjusted base proportions to be used as class tax share for municipal and school district levies. The second item is a resolution certifying the current base proportions to be used as class tax share for municipal and school district levies. The third item is a resolution authorizing the supervisor to enter into 2 public benefit services agreements with Schenectady County.
Those probably should come through Highway and Public Works because they're items that are, related to parks, and then also the splash pad.
Resolution budgetary modifications. And finally, we're going to add a public hearing regarding the residency of a controller's position and a resolution to appoint a controller. That's all I have.
Great. Thank you. We're going to move on to Highway, Parks, and Recreation Committee items. We're going to begin the first 2 items Councilwoman Jakewith will speak to.
Okay. Did you have something, Denise?
Yeah, we're going to have the hearing on the comptroller, and we're going to have the comptroller resolution in one meeting.
That's what Laura had, we had discussed that probably prior to you being on. It was suggested that that happened just in case you were ready to appoint that controller position, that you've got the place card for it.
Okay.
So sorry, that probably didn't properly explain myself. I was just suggesting, because that is a non-controversial thing, I would think, following the public hearing, that you might just want to enact that local law. I don't know that you guys are,
local law.
yeah, I don't know that you guys are ready for the comptroller position, but you could do the public hearing and then enact the local law at the same meeting.
That's what
I'm sorry, I misunderstood that.
Okay, so the first item number 5, is a licensing agreement with Dags Basketball for the use of Avon Crest. Somebody referred a person who runs basketball training, who I spoke to him at the number of Niskano residents. I asked him about that. It's over 60%. They're running clinic training in groups of 4 on Mondays, Tuesdays, and Wednesday nights at Avon Crest. We were able to negotiate a very nice licensing agreement for 4 weeks for $2,500. Certainly, it helps make up for the lost pavilion revenue. And it benefits most importantly, it benefits our kids and getting them back on the court. So that has commenced, and it's 2 weeks in. So we only got 2 more weeks left of that. Number 6 is Niskano Girls Softball League approached us about potentially entering into a licensing agreement at Avon Crest. They have traditionally made use of the softball fields behind VA, which have been less and less available to them, especially this year with the shutdown of school facilities. There is some work to be done at Avon Crest, and they initially, engaged us about doing the improvements to Avon Crest, new fencing, etc. There's a good amount of work in exchange for a licensing agreement. I checked with both them and Alexis just yesterday, and that's still pending. So that probably won't be on and negotiated by the end of the month. Could be, I suppose, but no updates. It's still something that they just approached us on. We said we're willing to listen. There's been no negotiation as of yet. And that's it for number 6.
Great, thank you. Move on to Lori.
All right, number 7 is a resolution to appoint a bus driver for the senior center. We are very lucky and happy to have received a applicant who previously worked for the Shenandoah School District and would love to work for the town of Niskano. So we'd like to get that person on a resolution for the end of the month so they can start driving for the seniors. Anybody have any questions? No? All right. And number 8 is a resolution accepting 2 grants from the Niskano Community Foundation. Last week, we received word that we were both of our grant applications were accepted. The first one for $1,984 was for the community programs for a blow-up movie screen, a Blu-ray projector, speakers, and all of the wires for possible movie nights. And the second was $2,500 for the senior center for a new bocce court over at the rec center. So we're thrilled and so happy that the Muskegon Community Foundation was able to grant us this money. Any questions?
Great, thank you, Lori.
You're welcome.
And Rosemary, I don't know if you want to speak to the public benefit service agreement with the county.
Oh, right. So I guess periodically the county will, give us money for improvements. So the ones listed, as I referenced, there are a list of about $110,000 worth of improvements that will benefit our parks and the splash pad and the bathroom by the splash pad as well to make that handicap accessible. There'll be some money towards benches, repaving, et cetera, a new net for softball, et cetera, the items that are listed in the public service agreement. We're incredibly grateful for the county's support of Niskano, for our residents to enjoy all these items. And so the letter requires us to authorize, after we approve, for you to sign the agreements. And then we'll be able to, I was anxious to get it on the agenda so that we could actually start looking at that and implement some of those improvements this year. So our residents could enjoy some of those items.
Wonderful. Thank you. We're going to move on to Economic Development, Historic Preservation, and Environmental Conservation Committee items, and we will move on to Laura Robertson.
Hi there. I am going to take mine a little out of order. There's 4 public hearings coming out of the Economic Development Committee. One is the public hearing for a special use permit for an average density development at 2538 River Road, Kelt Farm. You guys have been getting a lot of public comment about that. That's the referral from the planning board, and the public hearing, I believe Michelle has just sent them to the newspaper. They're posted they'll probably be posted this Friday. And then you have a public hearing to enact a local law allowing hens on single family residential properties. There's a public hearing to enact a local law amending Chapter 98 of the Code of the Town of Niskano entitled Fees, which actually I think that may actually be slightly wrong. It's well, it might be right. It's the one that's reducing the fees for site plan, tenant changes for site plan, and minor subdivision sketch plan approval. And then the final one you guys discussed at your special meeting would be a public hearing to amend Section 147-59H of the Code of the Town of Niskano to prohibit vaping and the use of electronic cigarettes at town parks. And that's in conjunction with the signs that NCAP, I think, is trying to provide to the town. So there's those 4 public hearings. And then we talked about at Economic Development Committee, I think we want to potentially take action on enacting the local law to prohibit vaping and the use of electronic cigarettes at town parks. There's a timeline with those signs that we want to be sensitive to and try and get that enacted as quickly as possible. The resolution enacting a local law for fees, reducing the fees, that's non-controversial. We figured following the public hearing, we would have a resolution for approval of that as long as, nothing odd comes up at the meeting. I think that we had decided not to do the chickens. So I think that we'll hold the public hearing and then kind of fold that into any changes that we want to make to the local law, and then potentially have a resolution for the local law in August. So I think that what we had decided on in economic development would be to hold off on any action on the hens. And then the final special use permit is the resolution for the average density development located at 2538 River Road. And at the Economic Development Committee meeting, we did think that we would bring that forward for potential action. I am happy to talk to you guys about anything about it. We talked about preparing the resolution ahead of time, and I mentioned before I would prepare the resolution, and I said this to Yasmin, in the manner that the planning board had recommended it. So if you guys do feel like you want to make changes to the way that it was referred to you, or if you're comfortable with it, you probably, I would say, maybe I made the planning board do this, kind of take a straw poll of where people are sitting at now so that we can get a sense of what the resolution would potentially look like, with the understanding that it can change because, you know, it's, we haven't had the public hearing yet, but we have had a lot of public comment on it. So, I mean, it's not like all the concerns are going to be coming out of left field. You may hear a couple new things and people for and against it, but I think that you guys probably have a pretty good concept of where that project is at. So if you want to talk about what you would want to see in that resolution, I'm happy to, you know, go through what the recommendations were for the planning board for you guys, just so that we can kind of sit with what we want to do potentially for the end of the month, if that makes sense.
Sounds good. We had a comprehensive conversation about all of these things at the committee meeting. So it was the longest economic development committee meeting I've been in a long time. So
It was.
it's
Okay.
par for the course these days.
And then the last thing is also what we talked about is there is a proposal that kind of ties into the Canal Corps grant that we've been working so hard on, that is the bathrooms. It has been the retaining wall at the Niskano Rowing Club, and it has been upgrades to the docks down there. There's a lot of stuff that's rolled up into that Canal Corps grant. And one of the things that the Rowing Club has asked, and they do a lot of in-kind on that grant, is for when the contractor is down there, if he can pour a cement slab adjacent to their building so that they can use in-kind services that can all be applied to that grant for constructing a changing room over top of that slab that they can connect into. They just don't have the capability to use volunteers to pour concrete slabs. So the idea would be that we could do a change order to our contractor that's out there doing the bathrooms to pour the slab, and then they can use volunteers and in-kind materials, and, you know, help build our in-kind numbers a little bit for the construction of that changing room. It is, sorry, I wrote it down. I thought I wrote it down. I did not write it down. It's like $11,000. I have it up on my computer. It's about $11,000.
How big is this concrete pad? Is it got footings? Is it an actual foundation and concrete pad?
Yeah, I can read you I can share my screen with you if I. Oh, here it is. And so, like, with the in-kind, it's probably a wash with what the town board spends as far as the whole grant goes, but we are getting pretty close to the $300,000 on that grant. So what the rowing club did is they had an engineer design it, and we sent that design to the contractor and had him give us a quote. It's $11,940, and it includes excavation of soil removal for installation of concrete slab and sub base, supply and install 6 inches of stone stub base, supply and install 4 inches concrete slab as shown in the plans, and floor to be light broom brush. So that's kind of like an anti-slipping thing because it's concrete floor.
Size. How big is
Oh, size. Hi, Tracy. And that's probably actually per the plans, and I didn't attach the plans. I can see if I can find it quickly, and you can come back to me if you want. Sorry about that, Bill.
That's
Okay, well, let's keep moving and
So I can look at it.
let's keep moving and Laura can give it to us.
Okay.
So she's done in public
Yep.
work.
Okay, so Public
Yeah.
Works.
Yes.
Yes, Matt.
So 18 is a resolution to authorize payment for National Grid for unbilled electric consumption at the wastewater plant. Paul Briggs, does this require a resolution or just the budget mods?
Just a
Does not-
budget mod. We don't need a resolution.
Yeah. Okay.
So
So
that's just been in finance.
yeah, so we'll pull that out. 19 is a resolution to award a contract to Barton and LaJudas for some technical assistance they want to provide to the water and sewer engineering office, and also to the wastewater treatment plant operators. It's the final handover transition training that we want to do. The town has been generating a standard operating procedures for the plant, and we're working with, and we want to continue working with Barton LaJudas to finalize, roll in some of our own preferences and get some of their advice. They provided this plant. I want to make sure that our operators are fully trained and on the same page as the design engineers are as far as the operation of the plant. So this would be for 13 weeks of assistance, weekly meetings with George Bevington from Barton LaJudas, who is he has 30 years experience as a PE and also a wastewater plant operator. He has been very valuable to us through the process of the upgrades, and even prior to the construction, he was helping with the former operator. So the total cost would be $8,600. I think it's well worth it. If it helps get our people off and running, and he's also there in case we need some assistance. 20 is a resolution to appoint a water and sewer maintenance worker. This is tentative. We have an opening. We've had an opening for a while. We've been waiting for applicants. Haven't had many applicants yet. I want to hold out and get a good person to fill the spot. So if we do end up getting somebody before the meeting and we're happy with them, we'll move forward. But right now, I don't want to take it off in case they do show up. 21 is a resolution to appoint a plant trainee at the water plant. We have a worker in the water and sewer department who has been working at the water plant as a water and sewer maintenance worker. He has expressed interest to become a trainee. He wants to get his license. We've put out a sign-up sheet to see if anyone else wanted to do that from within the crew, and this is the prime pick that we want to go ahead with. So he's been down there working at the plant for a couple months now, and he's working out well. So I'd like to move him towards to a trainee so that he can continue on. He's already taken some classes on his own as well to get his license. 22 is tentative. It's a water plant operator. We lost 2 operators this year already to retirement. We have one current open position, and then we have another operator who has stayed on longer than he had originally planned. He's due for retirement as well. So we've re-advertised again. We're hoping to get an applicant, but they're hard to come by right now. And if we get somebody, and it's a good candidate, we'll move forward. But same as with the water plant or the water and sewer maintenance worker, if we don't get anybody who's worthwhile, we'll move it to next month. 23 is just a resolution to hire a temporary worker or workers to help out at the water and sewer department, painting hydrants, that kind of labor work. I may not even be able to fill this position. We're waiting to see if we can find somebody to do that. I just want to leave it on there as a possibility. 24 is a resolution for a fence easement agreement for 24 Laura Lane. It's a standard agreement. Someone wants to place a fence within one of our easements, and we're reviewing, make sure there's no impact on our operations, that we still have access, and that they will place gates as needed for our use. 25 is a very similar situation for 1036 Hickory Road. It's another easement fence agreement. I'll provide all that information to you, Paul, so you can work on that.
So Matt, I already have that information. I've already reached out to the, sent messages out to the 2 homeowners. I'll have that ready.
Great, thank you.
Information I need.
Thank you. One additional resolution that's not listed on the agenda. A couple months ago, we did a resolution to get the approval of a independent contractor agreement for Dan Galley at the water plant. This is just a correction. The rate that his hourly rate was not correct, and the information as far as the license that's required was incorrect. We used the previous agreement, and somehow the numbers were changed, but it shouldn't affect anything as far as operation. I just want to get those numbers fixed. It's actually cheaper. Well, his rate was too high, and he's fine with us going back to the rate that we had agreed to. So it's just hey, Paul, would we want to do a resolution to amend the previous resolution?
Yes.
Okay, I can provide that information. That's all I have.
Thank you for dealing with that, Matt.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Matt. We're going to move on to Police and Public Safety Committee items. I yield the floor to the chief.
Okay, number 26. Oh, I just lost my document here. It's a resolution enacting a local law to amend Chapter 55 of the Code of the Town of Muskegon entitled Alarm Systems Emergency. This is a resolution I think we had up for a public hearing, and this is really for the police department to get out of the alarm monitoring business. It goes currently through the county dispatch center, so we've lost oversight and that kind of thing. So that is that one. Any questions on that? That's been something we've been talking about since before COVID. Okay, I think that's all I have.
Great, thank you. Okay, does anyone have any questions, additions, subtractions?
Yes, Paul Briggs.
Yes.
The ethics board has a vacancy.
Yeah.
We will need a resolution. We'd like to fill that. We're going to try to have a meeting. It's the Democratic seat that needs to be filled. Sending a email out to the board members tomorrow, asking for recommendations as to an appointment member.
Well, Paul, I'm sorry, I misunderstood what you said before. I mean, it's fine to ask us, but I think we will do what we did with Rosemary's initiative, and we'll send out an email to the town. So why don't you start to draft that as to what the duties are, or the law that we passed a bunch of years ago about it?
I'll be glad to do that.
Great.
Then I'll provide it to Bill Lawrence and he can send it out.
Excellent. Thank you.
Okay.
Hey, Bill, I just sent the whole town board the plans for the slab, but it's 34 feet by 15 feet.
Thanks, Laura.
Thank you, Laura. I'll take a look at that.
Okay. Are there any other questions, additions, or subtractions?
Just one last thing, Supervisor. This is the chief. In finance, we talked about a movement to place a employee up to confidential secretary.
Mhm.
Do I need to put that on the agenda as well?
Yes, I believe you should. Yes, yep, so we'll add that.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. All right. Any other additions, questions, or subtractions? Okay. Seeing none, I will entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? We're now adjourned. Everyone have a wonderful evening. And we'll see you back here for our regular town board meeting that is scheduled for July 28th at 7 p.m. We will be holding it via teleconference. Have a
Thank
wonderful
you. Have a good
evening.
night, everyone.
Thanks.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Night.